everyone, today I'm going to be doing 3 mini reviews on books that I received from Penguin Publishing, and those books are Landry Park, Belle, and Grasshopper Jungle. The first book I'm going to talk about is the first book that I read at the beginning of this month, which is Landry Park by Bethany Hagen. It's been a while, so let me see if I can describe this. So Landry Park is about a girl named Madeline, and she lives on a plantation-type mansion, property called Landry Park. And let's just do a little back information about the world at this time. This happens about 200 years into the future after America has fallen or whatever. And customs have kind of tweaked a little bit, so now the normal of America is that there are gentry and then middle class people, and then there are the very low class people, which they call, oh god, what are they called? Poopy. The rootless. The lowest people are called the rootless. In this world, a lot of their power is run by kind of nuclear type lighting, and so this was created by Madeline's ancestor, who is part of the Landry family, and so she is rich and everything is powered by this radioactive nuclear stuff, and the rootless, that is their job, to replace these light bulbs and be exposed to radiation. So as you can imagine, being the poorest class and having to be around radiation for their job and doing other strenuous labor works, they are really mistreated. She sees these rootless people and how badly they're being treated, and she wants to help with that. Kind of just instill equality, I guess you could say. When I remember back to myself reading this book, all I can remember is that I was really bored reading it. The writing felt like a classic, wherein it was really forced, and it was beautiful, obviously, as most classics are. However, it was just so hard to follow, and I was getting exhausted with it, and I was so fed up with having to keep reminding myself, focus on this book, because the writing was just so disengaging. I praised the scenes that were mostly dialogue, because although they were very Victorian type dialogue, like "I shall not" or whatever, it was much better than the writing. So those scenes where there were actual interactions and it wasn't just a backstory, I was like, hallelujah. But even with the dialogue, sometimes they would just say things like, "I do not know," and it's like, I'm pretty sure that is not what someone would say, which leads me to my next point that I realized halfway through the book. This book takes place, obviously, in the future, and so I could not make a connection, like, how logically would America go from the current, like, technological savvy? I have no clue what would have happened between now and then for them to revert, like, rewind back into a state where there's, like, little technology. The only technology they have in this are, like, the lantern, light fixture things, and then just, like, cell phones. And I was like, I'm pretty sure 200 years in the future we're gonna have, like, flying cars and establishments on the moon. And I couldn't form a connection, like, why were we getting so proper in the future? It was just so foreign to me, and I don't know why I was so, like, weirded out by it, but I totally wish we could have gotten a better explanation of that and, like, what occurred between now and then for them to become so proper and, like, ball gowns and proper speech. And lastly, the characters were just kind of meh, cookie cutter type people, except for one chick. There was this girl named Kara. She was the main character's old best friend. They had been childhood friends, and when I say best friend, I loosely use the term best friend because Kara was always setting her up for all the, like, mischievous things they did, and she was basically a horrible friend. And so Kara was so aggravatingly, like, anytime this girl was in a scene, I was, like, ready to murder someone. I was like, make her leave. I don't want you to be here right now, which is actually a really good thing. So I think it was fantastic that I was able to feel so much hatred toward her, because I think that was the intent, even though in the end, she got a bit better, which overall, I gave this 2 stars, but I'm thinking of bumping it up to 3 stars because the last half was really great. The writing got a ton better, and even though I was still, like, it was like midnight and I was like, I have to finish this tonight, and so I pushed myself to read a lot of it in one night, which really wasn't that hard. I'm making it seem like it was such a struggle, but definitely if I recommend this to someone, I'm gonna warn them that it takes quite a lot of brain power. The next book I'm gonna talk about is Rebel Belle by Rachel Hawkins. Let's just cover lust for a second. This book is about a girl named Harper who, while at her homecoming dance, is in the bathroom and witnesses kind of a weird / traumatic / murderous event, and long story short, she finds out that she is some type of a guardian, which I forgot the name of currently because there were like 5 different names of things in this book, and it's just like it eliminated itself out of my mind. And so the question is, well, who is her guardian then? And that's when the fun comes in, because her or the person she is guarding, did I say her guardian a second ago? I don't know. The person she is guarding is none other than David, and David and her have been enemies for a long time. So it was just this huge conflict between having to protect him and all this different stuff going on, and then they find out later on that he's also a type of supernatural thing. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's just... I typically don't read books about witches because I don't really think it's the thing I would enjoy, but I liked this one, and I know Rachel Hawkins wrote Hex Hall, which if you enjoyed that, I think you would enjoy this. I started this directly after I finished Landry Park, and it was a breath of fresh air. And I don't know if that's because of the situation I was in beforehand, or if it's just written really nicely. I think it's a combination of both. I will say though, first off, this has a very quirky writing style, similar to Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout, where it kind of writes a little bit in the second person, where it's like they're talking to you rather than just stating a story in direct third person. So she'll say things like, you know, and stuff like that, which some people are really annoyed with because it's like a really casual writing style. I do have did I put this dust jacket on upside down? I did, didn't I? That was really embarrassing. I thought the characters were so fantastic. I especially thought they were incredibly unique. I don't know if that's in comparison to the last book I read, but I really, really enjoyed them for the most part. Specifically David, which is the main male protagonist, which, side note, the character in Landry Park's love interest person is also named David, so I was like... The characters were so funny and so well developed, and I absolutely loved them, specifically David, because David was, let's face it, a babe. The characters were just so great because there was a character in this scene, which is the main character's best friend's boyfriend, who was only in the book for like 5 scenes, but he was one of my favorite characters because every time he was in this book, he just had something funny to say or something hilarious to contribute, and I just thought it was so great, like a breath of fresh air. An issue I had, though, was because the book is called Rebel Belle, and it leads you to believe that it's this cute little southern chick who just drinks sweet tea all the time, and she's so sweet, but we never really got imagery of that. And I know they lived in the South and stuff too, but I feel like the theme of being a southern belle was really lost in this book, and it could have really been exaggerated if it wanted to be successful. So for example, I had written down that I wish there was more explanation of the setting, because they are living in a small town that's in the South, and I really just wanted an exaggeration of how friendly things were and how there were fields everywhere or whatever else about this city was peculiar of a small southern town. I just really wish that it would have kind of stuck true to its title a little bit more, Rebel Belle, because she seemed like a normal suburban girl, so it was really lost upon me, and I wish that could have been exaggerated more. I read this book in like 2 days because it was so thrilling, and it was a really fantastic pace, and things happened back to back to back, and I loved the characters. I already mentioned this several times. It did get a little bit stereotypical. I'm not a human, I can't tell my friends, and there's just this one person that knows, and yada yada yada. Also, as you can imagine, there is a bit of a love developing between the two characters, so you get to see a transformation, A+ character development occur, and I really, really enjoyed watching that, and I cannot wait For the second book, I know this book hasn't even come out yet. I totally forgot to look up release dates on these. I know maybe one or two of them are out. I know this one comes out in April, so, yeah, this book isn't even out yet, and I want the sequel. I love David. He was so sassy. And now we're going to talk about a book I finished today, so I should be able to talk about very coherently. Almost dropped it. Grasshopper Jungle by Andrew Smith. Really quick, can we talk about these pages, though? I thought they were cool at first, and now I'm just like, it looks like someone peed on my book. And it looks nice and pretty and fluorescent here, but I promise in person it's like pea colored. And for those curious people, it's just the outside. The inside is perfectly white, but yeah. This book is about a kid named Austin Zerba? It's Polish, so I'm so sorry. Austin and his best friend Robbie have found Austin's boss's office, and inside they realize there are a ton of weird things. Most peculiarly a glass bowl thingy with a mold in it. After a turn of events, some other kids in the town have stolen this mold and end up dropping it accidentally or purposefully, we never find out, outside. This caused a disease to become airbound. I don't know how it worked exactly, but anyone exposed to it went crazy and then died, and then a 6-foot praying mantis erupted from their body. Oh god. They only wanted two things when they were finally hatched: the Frickle Frackle and the Snickle Snackle. So their goal was to eat all of humanity and to spread their populations. And so the whole premise of this is Austin and Robbie had to find a way to stop it, and then there's this huge side conflict thing going on where Austin's girlfriend Shan is also in there, and they're trying to sort out some sexuality issues and unfold a mystery of Austin's past and just do all this different stuff, and it was just crazy. Are you confused and weirded out yet? Because I was very much so. The first thing that I must mention up front is that Andrew Smith has a very, very weird, not weird, but like, you have to be used to his writing to be able to enjoy this book. I know a ton of people have heard Winger, and if you have, then you know that he's very vulgar in his writing, and he uses a lot of vulgar explanations for things and really unnecessary pervertedness sometimes. And although I wasn't really like grossed out by it, I was still really self-conscious, like, what if someone sees me reading this over my shoulder? Because at some point I had the book open in my hand as I was looking at something in class, and I realized the word sexual reproduction, that's 2 words. Anyway, it was like in bold print on the page, and I was like, I hope no one saw that. So yeah, be prepared to read this when no one's closely around you, or if you don't like, especially if you don't like potty language or really crude descriptions of things, I would stay away. I started out hating Austin, let's be real. Austin is our main character, and even though it was in first person, I was so bored by him. Like, he really had no personality. That changed around the middle to the end of the novel because I felt he really did go under a transformation, and he started to develop feelings for things that weren't like, that made me horny. Which is a sentence he says a lot. If that freaks you out, you might want to skedaddle. But yeah, he got way better and so much more likable, and he could recognize his own faults, and he was becoming more acquainted with himself, and in the end, he was a pretty respectable character. One of Austin's really cool traits is that he's obsessed with history, and so what he does is that every day he writes in his journal exactly in detail what happened to him, and sometimes with pictures. And so, that was a really cool aspect to his character, but also there was a different thing where this book is told in third person, and so what would happen is that he would tell what's happening to him, but then he would go back and say, at the same time, this was happening, and this was happening, and this was happening, and this was happening, so there would be what he and Robbie are doing, and then what was happening to the grasshoppers, and what was happening to a different family member, then what was happening to his brother who was in Afghanistan. And so it was really cool just to get that, like, multi-view. Additionally, onto that, he always had these explanations, probably, like, every 10 pages he would go into this backstory about his family and like how his grandpa and his great-grandpa and his great-great-grandpa came to America from Poland, and just all this different information about his family ties, which I thought was cool at first but then got really boring really fast. But overall, this was a really apocalyptic book where it was like people are dying and there are so many massacre scenes where these creatures are just destroying the town and eating people and causing destruction, and it was so casually written. Like, I wouldn't say they didn't care about what was going on, because obviously they had to run for their lives, but it was like the writing style just made it seem like, oh yeah, he just bit that guy's head off, and I don't think it was very fitting for this type of story, and I don't know if that was the intent, but I just was really uncomfortable. Like, shouldn't you be, like, concerned about that guy over there that's like, no? Okay. I have some friends coming over for a movie night, so I got a skedaddle. I keep saying the word skedaddle. Oh, who even does that? I hope you're having a good day, and let me know if you pick up any of these 3 books. And until next time, thank you for watching. Bye-bye!